Well, hello and good evening, everybody. Hopefully you can all hear me. Welcome. Awesome. So, I'm going to assume if one person can hear me, everyone can hear me. Uh, Welcome to the latest update for the system. So it's been a little while since we've had one. Most of the work that we've done lately has been in the back end. So that's not to say things haven't been happening. Uh, so to start out, this is for release 3.8.0, but first we're going to start off by doing sort of a 4-month project update because it was around 4 months ago when we sort of formally moved into the whole, we're actually going to try and manage this project a little bit more. Um, and it seems to have worked out. I don't know that it's quite the way that anyone would have envisioned, but yeah, so it is PowerPoint time. I'm sorry, this isn't going to be the best PowerPoint in the world. It actually breaks all my personal rules for making PowerPoint, but it does its job, and plus I'm way more entertaining than this stuff that's, wait, it's up on this side? Yeah, up there. So, the project. I'm going to cover a couple of things to begin with. Uh, the first thing is I want to literally review the past 4 months. It'll be quick, but I want to point out all the really cool things that we've added to the system in the last 4 months. So if you watch nothing else, I'll try and keep it to about 10 minutes, and then in addition, I will throw in a demonstration of the stuff that we've done for sort of 3.6, 3.7, and 3.8. So not a lot of player-facing stuff in here. There's some little stuff, some quality of life stuff, some interesting things that we've added in, and I'll show what they are and where they came from. Uh, what are we going to do for the rest of this development cycle? So those of you who've been tuned into Foundry know that the V10 prototype has launched. I 100% recommend that you don't upgrade. So someone's asking, the stream's been up for 10 minutes already. Yes, there was a 10-minute delay for people to sort of hop in the chat room. I promise you've missed almost nothing. This is definitely close to the opening slide. Uh, so what are we going to try and accomplish? Again, these are goals. I've put it in quotation marks because, again, this is a volunteer project. We sort of do the things that we want to do or that are kind of a little bit of priority for various reasons, or that, I can bribe Shark because I want it for my game personally. Um, and then what is going to happen? What is our recommendations for V10? I promise this will be a very short slide, and if it's not sufficient, then you are welcome to go and check out the very in-depth flowchart that I made to help people figure out whether or not they should upgrade. Next, I want to talk a little bit about Extra Life 2022. So Extra Life 2021 is completed. We did an awesome job. We raised the most amount for any team, for all of Paizo. So that's pretty incredible. Uh, so I have a little bit of an update about that. This year's campaign has started. Then I want to talk about the Battlezoo Dragon Ancestries. So this is live today. The Foundry module will be coming shortly, I've been promised. And by shortly, I'm hoping that maybe it'll be live in a week or two. It depends on our very good data entry people, Takale and Spartan, who worked really, really hard to help sort of get this going. They did an amazing job with the last book, with the Battlezoo Bestiary, and that was just a bear. It was not a simple project by any sort of any sort of standard. This is going to be a little bit faster. I had a read through it because I got my copy yesterday too, so I downloaded it as soon as I could. Looks like it's really, really cool. I mean, it's so in depth. They did an amazing job. And then I have an announcement about a Paizo Union live stream. So if you stick around to the end, I will happily let you know what that's all about. So the major stuff that we've accomplished over the past, we'll say 4 months. Well, this was where we were when we sort of organized the project. We said, really, there is so much contribution coming in. It's gotten pretty flat and linear at 2.18 that we sort of need to manage this a little bit more formally. So fast forward to now, this is as of yesterday. You'll notice that the two charts look the same, except there's a lot more going off the right, and the number of merges is up another 2,000. That's a pretty productive couple of months, but yeah, we're sort of keeping pace. You can see there was a little acceleration and a little wiggle, but It's still a really, really, really linear chart. It just goes to show that we've got a lot of really amazing people working on it, that we've been able to maintain the standard. We haven't had any huge problems with the amount of code that we've been adding in. Shark is insane. He has coded a solid half of that for sure. We've also added a whole lot of people thanks to the data entry world. A lot of those are first-time contributors who are credited in the changelog, but you wouldn't be able to tell from the GitLab history that they've gone in. So people have been going in, and then we've been able to merge in the changes that they've been added. So it's kind of neat that that's turned this into a little bit of, I don't know what to call it, a bit of a self-help project. That doesn't seem right, but sort of, yeah, that's the reality of things. Um, yeah, I won't call it a self-help project, but people are now able to easily contribute without having to install Git or do any of that. So to everyone who has contributed fixes, thank you so very much. It's the numbers are in there. So what have we accomplished? Let's go through all of the things first that we've done on that line that we've demonstrated in previous streams. So drag and drop initiative ordering. If you haven't used it, this is one of my favorite additions. I didn't know how much I really wanted it until Shark put it in, especially now that it's automated, that if you turn on the system toggle, someone goes down, it moves them correctly in initiative order. Very, very handy. Mystify on drop. So we now have it built in that you can mystify items when you're dragging it from the inventory to somewhere else. So no longer do you have to drop it into the bag of holding and mystify it. So if you don't have your treasure prepped, you can drag over, I think it's hold alt, and it comes in as an unusual item. The grant item rule element and feature nesting. So this is a pretty cool one. Those of you who've updated from, we'll say Pathfinder version 2 to Pathfinder version 3 in the Foundry terminology, I'll be very, very, very happy that that we'll go from 3 to 4 at the next one, because then there'll be no confusion at all. There is no Pathfinder 3 3rd edition. This is what's let us nest things and do a lot of really cool and powerful stuff, so that when you drag something in, items get added. There's now the choice set as well, so that if you have a selection, say you pull in your instinct, it'll say, well, which instinct do you want? And then if you say choose dragon, it'll say, okay, what color of dragon? And it all gets that down. So it was a big step towards being more charactermancy. Stepping back, move on unconscious is in core now. Yes, it is. It is a setting that's defaulted off, but if you go into the system settings, you can certainly turn it on. You can hide elements of the character sheets. So there's lots of people who don't play characters that are casters or can craft. So for all of those fighters who just don't care, you can get rid of them. If you're not playing Pathfinder Society, you can turn that off. So there's a lot more extensibility built in, and it sort of lets you clean up the icons so you're not always fumbling around and looking for the right thing. We've always had it that, I'm embarrassed to say, it took me halfway through Pathfinder 2.x to realize that there's the functionality that you can just put plus or minus under the character and add in hit points. You can now do that with XP as well, which is super handy. So if you're adding 96 experience to a character, you just go plus 96 in the box and it'll do the math for you. We've gotten rid of having a whole bunch of effects and again use choice sets. So something like cover, you can drag that to a character or toggle the macro and it'll say, well, is it lesser, normal, or greater cover? And there you go. So that's another feature that takes the number of macros that you can use down, makes that macro bar that much more valuable. We've added in a whole bunch of metagame settings, so you can choose what your players see or not see. If you want them to see the AC of every creature, you absolutely can. If you want to hide that information, that's fine too. We added quick alchemy to crafting. So the crafting tab was one of the last things that we added at the end of the last revision. Now quick alchemy, it works pretty decently. I think we've got most of the bugs ironed out for it. So it'll do the advanced alchemy levels, and you can drag, and all the infused things now come in as purple, even if you hand them to another player, so that at the end of the day, you know that they've expired. Heritages, they are now items. So this was one of the areas on the sheet that you couldn't drag and drop in. Well, guess what? Now you can, and it'll start applying those bonuses. We have started doing things like adding in the resistances. It doesn't do anything yet, but it will make it display on the sheet and it will update. So we do have a resistance rule element, and that's functioning for when IWR becomes a thing. We have implemented essentially distance calculations. Not a simple task, because trying to figure out exactly how to do it is hard. We put in the first method, demonstrated it, and then we modified it. We think that it respects the rules as best as we can figure out. IWRs, immunity, weaknesses, and resistances. So that means that we can do things like track volley and implement point blank shot to suppress traits. If you get outside of range increments, then it'll start to add on the range penalties for you. Then you don't have to think about it so long as you've targeted. Hand wraps now transfer property runes, so if you have +1 striking, they now go where they're supposed to and add the bonuses where they're supposed to for the various unarmed attacks, which is a huge positive. Um, so that's kind of a really nice quality of life thing for anyone who is playing a monk especially. Fast healing and regeneration. Soup managed to take that out of the persistent damage module and bring it into core. It's kind of awesome. I was just using it last week. Because of probably that being in alone, both spellcasters in the party that I play in have now taken regeneration because you just see how useful it is and you never forget to do it. So as much as persistent damage is great, and that is still a module and I still highly recommend it, the fast healing and regeneration being built in, it's the same as sort of having a bunch of the modifier information built in. It's really great to have. Uh, Compendium Browser now does default filtering. So if you are on your sheet and you use the little magnifying glass to pop open class feats, it will make that selection for you and you only have class feats. If you go to 4th level spells, it will default select 4th level spells and you'll only see 4th level spells. You can still turn the other filters on or off once you're in, but it's a very nice thing for quickly getting over. And it's something that, we didn't think was that important until we started using it. It's like, yeah, we should have been doing this from the start. We now have floaty text. So we saw at the end of the Foundry V9 release cycle that Foundry had implemented the sort of plus and minus. You get hit, you get like red, a red number comes up saying that you've been damaged, or you get healed, a green number comes up. We've done that. We've added in conditions. So if your conditions go up or down, that now comes in and out. It's disableable if you don't like that, but it was a cool little feature that we've added in. The Compendium Browser got a huge refactor. Uh, I remember in version 2 when we refactored and it changed the loading time of the packs from like 12 seconds to under 1 second. It was really incredible. We thought this was amazing. Now there is no delay, no lag, no nothing. It's amazing the improvement in that alone. So well done. You can now toggle on, so certain effects that are when they expire, they get removed, and your frightened condition at the end of a round will decrement. It's not absolutely perfect. This is a setting that people can use if they want the icons to go away. If you go back in time, the things won't come back. That's a really big concern, and that's why we have the expired. But it is an option because people asked for it, and it's something that hopefully we'll be able to improve on and enhance as we go along. Another big change is things like guidance or other items that enhance damage were not accessible through rule elements previously. Now guidance or dangerous sorcery, that's all added in. You don't have to worry about it. It just works. And so that's something that you wouldn't normally see, but that was added in that we really like. On NPCs, if there is a tab that's empty, say there's nothing in spells, it will be grayed out so that you know that that character doesn't have spells. Conversely, if the text is, you can see it, it has spells, which is something that GMs who are using the NPC sheet, it's really handy to have because how many times have you forgot that a creature that is attacking has spells that it can use? In fact, it's got some pretty decent spells that you forgot to use on your players. Thankfully, in my Agents of Edgewatch game, Fry Guy forgot about that, and one of the fights was not as bad as it could be. This is one that, at least for data entry, we're absolutely in love with. The item universal identifiers are on the rule elements tab, so if you open up the rule elements tab, it'll tell you the identifier for that item. It actually saved me a half hour of work yesterday when I was trying to pull it. And I'm like, wait, this starts with token. And I realized I'd been modifying one of the tokens and not the item in the sidebar. Inventory carry type added with the strike sheet button. So now you can put things in one hand, two hand, you can drop, you can sheath. All of that is super cool. So Fry Guy added that in. It does not enforce handedness, so you can have 8 hands full. The system's not going to force you to change it any differently because we know that some people like having all of their things available, but for those people who like to track whether or not they have a free hand, so they know that they either have to, drop their second weapon if they want a battle medicine, that they can now see at a glance. Item bonuses that give +1. So if you have, say, a trip weapon and you add a +1 rune, that +1's supposed to apply to trip. If you roll with the macro, that will now occur. Uh, Something that Shark added in, a V9 module incompatibility warning or compatibility warning. If you update and there's modules that don't state that they're compatible with the current version, you will get warned in the system. So it'll just pop up. It'll only happen the first time that you've updated the system. It'll say, hey, you're using these modules and they're not necessarily broken, but you should know that they've not been updated or you haven't updated your modules. We get a lot of people who will update Foundry and then not update the system or update the modules. And so this is as much as we can do within the system to say, hey, take a second look at this. It is a nag screen. We're not going to disable it because then if you come for troubleshooting and you have a module that's out of date, we'll say, well, we did warn you. We do enforce ammunition usage. There's people who don't like it. I think we might create a toggle at some point for it, but if your thing is unarmed, it doesn't have ammunition, it won't necessarily fire. We are not enforcing reload. There is a module that will enforce reload if that's what you would like. But for now, it'll be nice. It'll track, so you can put in what type of ammunition you're using with the drop-down selector. Rest for the night button, it's now integrated on the sheet. So if you want to rest for the night, you don't need the macro. Right up where you've got your death saves, you have the rest for the night button, and you can just use that. Then all the data entry that we've done. So Lost Omens, Absalom, and Monsters of Myth came out. Those are in the system. Quest for the Frozen Flames, books 1 to 3. Strength of Thousands, books 5 and 6. So Strength of Thousands 6 and Quest for the Frozen Flame, book 3 are coming in as of this release, so 3.8. We've updated the iconics. We've just finished off with deities. So we still need to redo Kyra and we still need to redo Sela. So that might not make it in for 3.8, but that'll be in for sure for 3.9 once we figure we've got everything done. We're trying to make sure that all the automation's working there. But spoiler, next slide, yes, we have deities as drag and drop items now, and they should be able to recognize things like the favored weapon for feats like Deadly Simplicity. We added the characters from the New Year's blog. I'm sure tomorrow we will go and start adding the creatures from what I'm sure will be on the April Fool's blog. We'll likely have to sit down as a group and figure out what some of the things are in case they say that charisma is lots again. We've also added in one-shot number 4. In addition, there was a massive amount of cleanup of almost everything. Bestiary 1 is completely redone. In the past couple of months, as well as huge cleanups to a lot of the adventure paths to get things sort of in line. So moving on, 3.6, 3.7, and 3.8. What have we done? So the first thing is we've added the damage buttons to the strike roll card. And so what does that look like? So here we are, we've got Foundry pulled up. And I'll just take Amiri over here. She can run up to this enemy, target them, and we will make a strike. Oh, well, maybe I'll demonstrate that sooner because I didn't mean to have that done. Draw her bastard sword. So she'll take a swipe with the bastard sword. Hey, look at those pretty dice. So here now we have the damage and the critical buttons right on the card. So if you're one of the people who likes to roll from the card, you don't need to go back to the heads up display. You can just hit damage. And there we go. You can see the result. Here's some of the metagame settings that we talked about, the AC that's being compared against, the result hit by +3. And so those are now present. So what I said next was that we had those pretty dice. So thanks to Sasmira, we now have 3 sets of PF2e specific dice skins that are all built in. And if you're looking to find those and use them, you do need to have Dice So Nice installed. We're not making it a system dependency, but if you do have Dice So Nice, it'll just work. You can go into your settings, under module settings, under Dice So Nice. You can find them here under Dice Finder. So there's, oops, we have the basic ones. And so they're the red ones, and a silver and gold coin. We can go into the campaign ones, and so they're sort of the Pathfinder sort of sandy colored. We've got the P in place for the D20, and then of course in dark mode. So someone asked, what dark mode am I using? This is Doraku's UI. Which I did actually demo in a previous stream. He's done lots of work onto it. I still want to convince him to build more into the system. Feel free to bug him on Discord to build more into the system. And so that's where you can find the setting for all of those. Going back to our presentation, next up, you can combine objects and you can end up splitting stacks of like objects, which is a nice thing for people who want to pass things around. So we'll hop back over. And so here's Amiri, and I've given her 2 stacks of arrows. Now I want to clean up my inventory a little bit, so I can just drag the 1 stack of arrows onto the other, and they combine. But let's say I want to get rid of some, so here's my bag of holding. I'll just drag some of the arrows in there to store them for a little while. I will say I want to move over 10, and we'll split the stacks for us. Easy peasy, so 10 to the bag of holding, I keep 10. If I bring them back, I can just drag them in, move them, and I can choose whether or not to create a new stack when I move them. So if I do, great. And if I just want to combine them automatically, I just don't have to do that, and then it'll just up the quantity. So it's like magic. So it's doesn't seem like a big deal, but it's one of those nice things that we should probably be doing. So now we're doing. Coming back, next up, the world clock. We've got buttons now to set dawn, noon, dusk, and midnight for those of you who want to. So Putty, who was very active at the very start, came back and coded us up a little bit out of an update. If you want to find that, you can just go into the system, looking around. You can go into the clock, and you see now we have another row of buttons. It was a pain in the neck, thanks to CSS, to get 4 buttons on the row with 3 above and below. So it'll go forward or backwards in time if you hold, I want to say it's control. You can go, we can set it to dawn the next day or the previous day. So it's just another nice option to have, and it's one that'll go to a defined time. So they're defined as 6, 12, 18, and 24 or 0. How do you actually set the date and time? Manually, there's no way to easily type it in. There's no calendar feature. Like if I wanted to go, you know, a month forward, I can just say, well, I want to move forward 30 days. And you can do that with an arbitrarily large number of them. Uh, there's just no easy way to go super far away. Yeah. You can change the clocks or the time conventions if you'd prefer. And you can reset it to the original date for the system, but there's no way to easily just type in, oh, I want this exact date. It takes a minute or two to set to a specific date. It takes a little bit of time, but you do have the ability to set forward by like 1,000 weeks if you really want. Okay, going next. We removed the sell and equip buttons from loot actors because um, we had people who were having a little bit of well, it didn't belong there. It didn't make a lot of sense necessarily. Um, so we've just taken it out. I'll put some of my arrows back. I'll put all of the arrows back, so I can mystify them, but it's not really for that. Uh, because it's just as easy to take it, say, okay, 1 silver for a stack of them, and I can just do the math and then use the add or subtract coins button. And that's the best way to do it because there's no amount that's set. Normally you sell for 50% in my Abomination Vaults game. I let the players sell for 60% and they get a 10% discount on purchases because they've improved the reputation. There's no real set rules. So we sort of wanted to avoid something that's going to hamstring people in. Oh, shoot. I'm getting used to this. So here we go. I can go back. So there wasn't much to see other than I was showing the buttons were gone. Um, and then, you can easily add or subtract coins using the interface. I knew I was going to forget to swap screens at some point. It's a lot of things, and this isn't my day job by any stretch of the imagination. Uh, a sell button for a percentage to the GM to prompt. Yeah, there's lots of things that we can do. We're really hoping that Paizo will come up with actual rules for this so that we can build it in. Otherwise, we might do some sort of crutch like that. It's just something that there's a lot of rule elements that we haven't added in yet, and it there's just sort of a lot to do from that point of view first. So it's just not a priority. So here I will go back. Aha, see, I remembered. Uh, show rarities in the Compendium Browser. This actually came out of both spellcasters accidentally picking spells that were uncommon and not actually realizing it because they just did the filtering but didn't filter down by rarity. So now when we open up our Compendium Browser, so here we are. Here's the bestiary. You can see uncommon, unique, and rare items all have tags. Same with the equipment. So here I search for lance. You can see a normal lance and a radiant lance. If I go to spells, let's say I'm an arcane caster and I want to look up 6th level spells. Oh, this one's uncommon, this one's rare, this one's uncommon, this one's rare. So as a GM, I can ask the GM, oh, can I take scrying, yes or no? Or is there some other reward that I sort of want to get? So yeah, it's a very nice quality of life feature. Automating the jousting trait. So this is why our good friend Amiri ended up having um, her a lance on her. So we can go back. So we will sheath our. I don't know if that'll work. That'll be funny. So she'll swap to holding the bastard sword in one hand and draw the lance with another hand. So there you go. We've changed the grip as a free action. We've drawn the lance, and uh, we haven't automated this part, but we'll say she comes with the lance and takes a run at this creature, uh, making a strike, and she hits. Oh, maybe it doesn't work without the. Yeah, Amiri's pretty much her own mount. So yeah, so two-handed goes to D8, one-handed goes to D6. So in any case, not really her thing, so we'll just drop that item completely, uh, which is handy. Now you have to pick it up if you want it. It won't track the square you've dropped something, so don't think that. And we can head back over. So we're almost done with the updates of the cool stuff. So here we are, um, Deity Objects. So now we can go and let's take a look at Amiri here. So she doesn't have one at this point in time, but maybe enough time with Kyra will make her a convert to Saren Ray, so we can drag Saren Ray right in. It'll update the icon for you if they have icons that are available to be used in the community use pack. Feel free to ask Paizo to add more to the community use pack. Everyone's a critic. I think people just tune into the stream to hear how I'm going to pronounce that word. I feel like that's the entertainment value at this point. So yes, those are now objects that you can that can be used. Going back, we now have a campaign's feats section. So this is coming out. It is a toggleable option. So if we go into the system settings, so see campaign feats, adds a section to all players sheet for campaign specific feats. Right now, when you turn this on, you will have to refresh. It doesn't automatically refresh and add them when you toggle it. So if you turn it on and say, hey, the section didn't show up, refresh and you'll see it. But if you come into Amiri now, you will now see a section for campaign feats. Very useful if you're doing something like Strengths of Thousands. So you can drag certain things in there. So it's different than bonus feats, and it's sort of a little bit more free form for you. And I think there's only one more thing, if I remember right. Innate spell tracking for NPCs. So this is a pretty cool one. Oh no, there's two things. I can't forget about the second thing. The second thing's the saving the best for last. So now on NPCs, so you'll see the spells is not dimmed. I can go in, hey, this character has spells. So let's cast Dominate. So I cast it, and now it's tracked. It's been used. All the information still pops up. So Amiri can make a will save. Oh no, a critical failure. Oh, that's not good for her. So that's a cool feature. So you'll now go down. Okay, it's been used. Uh, there still are the at will and constant ones. Uh, we're not tracking it that thoroughly yet because it's at will, so you can keep casting it. So you can literally just pop it to chat instead of casting, so that it doesn't disappear, which is not necessarily what you want because you can still keep casting it if it's at will. But you try and cast it again, you can't. The spell's already expended. You can hit the reset button to refresh it. Innate spell tracking on PCs? No, this is for NPCs at this point in time. And then finally, last but not least, the big one, automatic flanking detection. We have added an option in the system settings for people who want to disable this, if you want to track it on your own or there's some other edge case. We worked really hard to make sure that about 99% of cases deal with this properly. So let's just quickly call in a reinforcement from over here. So Amiri is going to get ganged up on. What I'll note is that this creature is 4th level. Amiri is 5th level because she's the level 5 variant, and she has deny advantage. So she can't be flanked in the normal sort of way. She's not made flat-footed to this creature, but she is still flat-footed to this one because this guy's level 6. He's a higher level. So if we target Amiri, I'll just clear this off, and we'll have the guy here have a strike with his longsword. You'll see Amiri's AC is 22 normally, dropped to 20 because she is flanked. But for the other creature slashing it with its claw, you'll notice that it is not, there's no difference. It's just the normal 22 because she's flat-footed to this one, not to this one. I didn't have to toggle anything on. The system figures it out. It works with larger creatures. It figures it out. So it does the proper angles. It works with reach. I don't think either of these have a reach. I can see if I can modify it quickly. Longsword, let's give it reach 10. So if I go further away from Amiri, she should still be flat-footed to this strike. There we go. But if it's even further away, and in theory he could hit, it should not work now because it does not within reach. So those are all the big changes for 3.6, 3.7, and 3.8 that is player facing. So moving on quickly, what are we planning to do for the rest of V9? Well, there's lots of things that we have planned. I'm promising none of these and none of them in a specific order. One thing that we would love to do is have runes and other embeddable things like talismans or spell hearts that you can just drag and drop onto the piece of equipment, and then they would apply the subordinate effects. So if you put a crushing rune on, you would get the appropriate notes. If you put a flaming rune on, it would add the damage, and on the critical effect, it would add a note. And you wouldn't have to add those into each weapon manually. Then if you drag the rune to a new item, the one would lose it, the other one would gain it, and that would be fantastic. It would be great for a lot of talismans that give you additional actions, and there's a lot of other places in the system this would be helpful. It's just not a small project, so I won't say expect it soon, but expect it eventually, just because it would be super cool to have, and it would be sort of the next level of huge feature. Affliction support. This is one area that we'll admit we don't do great. If you have diseases or things that need to be tracked round by round, persistent damage is a good template for doing some of that stuff. But being able to do other types of recovery checks, being able to change the damages, that would be really cool. Again, it's more technical because you have to sort of go step by step. We have to have the virulent trait handled, but it's something that we would love to see in the system. Roll code upgrades. This is the biggest long-term project. I have no idea when this one will get done. It would be nice to get finished in V9, but there's a lot of changes that need to happen to the roll code to sort of get them up to par. It's the last big chunk of legacy code, and it's not going to be a simple matter of untangling it all, as some people have learned as they've tried to make small modifications to the system. And we had one person who was a first-time contributor and just wanted to pull their hair out, and it's all because of legacy code debt. It's nice that most of the system isn't there, but if someone wants to take that on and has a lot of knowledge in JavaScript and TypeScript, we would love to have you. It is definitely not a first project, though. Another one, immunity, weakness, and resistance support. Someone pointed out in one of the Discords how really knotted up this can get. It's something that we'll tackle over time. It's kind of tied into the roll code. We don't want to do too much. We could probably add immunities in pretty easily. The rest of it gets really hard. This is my personal project. I've had to step away because of other things that I've been doing over the past couple of months. But thanks to a couple of people like Redux, who's one of the online venture lieutenants, we've still been getting stuff in. For anyone who's complaining, I'm Canadian, so it's lieutenant, not lieutenant. And so yeah, we've got a bunch of cleanup that we want to do to get that in line with the rest of the system. There's lots that's missing, and I'm going to put that 100% on me. Persistent damage integration into the system, we would love it. Again, sort of tied in with the roll code. Thrown weapon support, something that I've been promising for a while. We just haven't gotten to it, but it'll probably have an interface similar to the combination weapons. With when you throw, it'll deduct one from your inventory that you'll have to go and retrieve later. And then work on spell slot heightening and spell slot progression. So starting to tie a bunch of that in. This will fit in with longer term goals of adding things like ability score tracking or what level you took skills at. And we still need to do sort of a refactor on lores before a lot of that can happen. And the backgrounds will need to be updated. We're getting closer to being a character mancer, but I wouldn't. It's not on the list because I don't expect us to get all of those things done by V9. In fact, I don't expect all of these things. I expect some of these things. And then lastly, of course, there's auras. It's in small at the bottom because we're probably not going to even try and touch this until V10 or maybe even V11. It would be much better if we had Foundry support natively to deal with things like emanations first. That being said, Pathfinder 2e on Foundry does have this history of building our own things, even if we know that there's going to be parallel development. That's why we have rule elements instead of active effects, and arguably, rule elements fit the system better than active effects do. So, V10. This is not going to be a simple update. You'll notice if you went to the Prototype 1 developer stream, Atropos mentioned a lot of systems that work with very, very tiny modifications. You'll notice he did not mention PF2e. He's tried it. We've tried it. It's definitely not ready. It's because we've typed all of our things for safety, for coding to give us a more robust backend, but it does mean with a lot of the changes that we'll have to make those changes. I think it'll probably be a couple days of work to get everything converted over properly. It's not a big task, it's just a tedious one and one that can't be automated a whole ton. When V10 moves into the testing phase, we'll start to freeze feature addition. So I'll sort of have a wrap-up stream say, hey, we're not adding any new features. We'll still be adding in data until we get pretty deep into the prototype phase. But all the new features will be added on sort of a V10 branch that if you want to install it, it'll kind of be publicly available, but I would definitely not recommend it because it'll be broken most of the time. Report bugs diligently if you want them fixed as soon as we've stopped adding features, because we still will try and push bug fixes. So have them in, and we'll try and address them before we move to V10, but some might just get deferred, and you'll have to live with them for a little while. I will say we do not recommend running on V10 until we make a post saying it's safe and we create a 4.0 release. So if you are not developing on the system, and even if you are, but you're only doing it as a little bit of a hobby, don't. This is a one-way trip for your data. There's people who've accidentally upgraded to V10 and it's broken everything. And if you don't have a backup, you're done. We can't help go backwards. Foundry itself does a migration and it changes things and there's no undoing it. So be very, very careful. Like this is your warning. The flowchart is real, people. So moving on, Extra Life. This was very, very successful for us last year. Like I said, we were the top members of the Paizo team, so our little sub team representing Foundry raised the most money by far. I'd like to thank again GM Steve of Recall Knowledge, Shark, and then the two employees, Matt and Cody, who joined us. We are planning to run this again. So up on the screen, you'll see the link. It's also in the Discord if you would like to start donating, because there's no reason not to. Anyone who donates, I will say prorated against throwing Cody under the bus. I don't know what we'll set as goals or targets. We haven't really talked about it as a team. We do plan on doing another stream, and Cody is committed to coming back for more busing. So here I have got my t-shirt in support. So here's my Extra Life shirt that I received. And then on behalf of the system, here is our gold medal from Extra Life. Oh, it works better if I go this way. So it's nice and it's shiny. So here we go. Yay, we win. Just released today was the actual books for the Battle Zoo Ancestries with Dragons. I went through yesterday. Well, I guess it was released yesterday, and I talked to the authors. Super excited. It looks really cool. This is easily the most. Oops. There. Sorry. Battle Zoo Ancestries. Easily the most complex ancestries that have come out. The number of feats is incredible. Our two data entry people, Spartan and Takale, will both be working on getting this out as a Foundry module sooner rather than later. It'll likely take a lot less time than the Battle Zoo Bestiary. I'd love to say that it'll be ready to go next week. That might be a little bit... it's definitely not up to me to release. It's probably up to Battle Zoo itself to release. It'll still have to go through a proper QA cycle, but I think that they'll be able to get it all moved over pretty quickly. And for anyone who wants to play as a dragon, the mechanics, I've only had a chance to skim through it, but it looks really, really cool. So yeah, that's coming out, and we expect to see a whole bunch more commercial stuff in the near future. Just talking to them after creating this, they're going to have their next Kickstarter out in the summer. I forget if they said it was June or July. There will be Foundry support for it. Apparently it is super cool, and even I don't know what it is yet, but I might end up being one of those day one backers just because some of the stuff that they've made is just so neat and interesting. And a big thing, if we make embeddable items, then the whole system that they've created for the crafting of weapons and enhancements, that'll be super easy to implement in Foundry, and that's something that I don't think they'll be able to replicate on any other VTT in a simple way. But yeah, there's like 50 different types of dragon in the book. I probably got it wrong. I think it's like 54, or I don't know. Yeah, they very well might have been inspired by our Dragon Eye artwork from the last stream. And last for today, the Paizo Union live stream. So I will be hosting a live stream. I think we're planning tentatively to start the first week of May. It will be bi-weeklies on Thursdays. I think 1600. It'll be from 1800 to 2200. That's the wrong timings. No. Yeah, I don't know. We haven't worked out exact times yet. Something like that. It'll start around 6 p.m. Pacific time, I think. There will be 4 Paizo staff playing, and they'll be using Foundry. They're so impressed with Foundry as the union. They were really happy with the support that we gave them when they were trying to unionize, that they said, hey, we really want to show off the system, and this is the best VTT to do it, at least in the opinion of the people who are going to be playing. There will also be an instructional aspect. So we've already talked about it. At some point, if there's some feature that I'm using or something cool or something new that's been added, we'll just pause the game for a second. I'll explain it from the GM side. We haven't figured out how we're going to stream it quite yet. I'll sort of show off how the feature itself works, like hints and tips. While we're live streaming in real time, so you can watch the game. What AP we'll be playing, find out next week. We will be announcing next week which AP we'll be playing. They've asked me not to announce this week. I don't know why, but that's what they asked. Feel free to speculate, and I will feel free not to answer. So with that, I will open up the floor for a couple of minutes of questions. I will try and answer any that you have. Otherwise, thank you for sticking with me through the stream. I have no idea how many people showed up or did, because I just sort of have the Twitch chat thing, and I have like all my monitors filled up with stuff. And I think I only screwed up the transitioning back and forth once, so yay me. Abomination Malts is a hot topic this week. Um, I anticipate that news about abomination vaults and people's opinions are going to be coming out quick and fast. I'm interested to see. I'm running abomination vaults for my home group, and well, I guess do you even call it a home group anymore? If it's mostly over the internet. Um, But I think it'll be interesting to try and convert a lot of it to 5e. If you want my personal thoughts on converting it to 5e, it's an awesome idea. I think that they probably won't convert any of their 1 to 20 adventure paths just because doing anything past about level 12 in 5e is impossible to balance, right? And you won't have the same flavor. And really, the material that Paizo puts out, like going to the 5e crowd and saying, hey, you get this kind of quality compared to something like one of the books that they've put out. I mean, if you look at how much material Wizards has released for PF2e compared to how much Paizo has put out, there's more by level, by far, in PF2e now, and they're the only ones that do complete things. There is no single adventure that takes you from level 1, or I guess level 3, all the way to level 20. In fact, there's only Dungeon of the Mad Mage, I think, that goes beyond level 15. So I think that it's a cool idea. Abomination Vaults is a great one to convert. But yeah, I think my personal thought on the matter is they might convert the 1 to 10s. They won't do the 11 to 20s, and they won't do the 1 to 20s just because it would take them way, way too much time. But it'll be a great way to expose people and say, hey, we do this cool story writing. You can convert it if you want, come buy our books, or why don't you just try out our system that's really designed for this? Um, okay, so looking for this. Do NPCs have a rest for the night equivalent? No, because NPCs don't really rest for the night. For all of the consumable items, you can just sort of hit refresh or drag in a new copy of the actor. It's a pretty rare thing. Um, any update on getting Hero Point deck working as Foundry cards? No, nobody's touched that. It would be nice to do, but it's pretty removed from the core of what the system was trying to do. We're hoping that someone will be really interested in it and update them. Uh, Level 4 archetype feat for sentinels cannot be dragged to the archetype feats area and just lurks in bonus feats. Okay, Griffin, have you checked that it's not a skill feat? Because rules is written, if it's an archetype feat that has the skill trait, which I will look up quickly, it won't go into the archetype feats because it doesn't belong there. Archetype feats are very specifically in the rules class feats. So you can put them into the box. Now, if you want to homebrew that's not the case, um, then you're welcome to. All you need to do is remove the skill trait. But looking at it, level 4, Steel Skin is a skill feat. That's why it's going there. It has the archetype tag, but that doesn't put it in the archetype feat slot. Only class feats can go in there. Rules is written. Is there any plans to implement splash damage and related feats? Possibly. You can already, like it should already roll, or there's already buttons for most types of splash damage, so it's easy to apply, but nothing automated. But we also don't do automated damage, so that kind of makes sense. Is there sort of migration? No, the text in the box will not automatically be converted and replaced. You'll be able to drag and drop on top, and then it'll just work. Any plans to add 1001 fish to core PF2e? Listen, you think PF2e development is crazy, 1001 fish, we can't keep up, so we're just going to leave that one in module land. Uh, I think that's all I've got for you tonight, so I will wait another minute or two to see if there's any other questions. Otherwise, thank you all for attending. Hopefully that gets you caught up and a good idea where we're going as we're moving forward with the system. Definitely expect some cool announcements in the near future. I'm really excited to see how the Dragon Ancestries come. Hopefully we'll have an announcement for you next week. We'll probably release more details about the live stream. It's a pretty exciting time for the system. I think we probably have a couple surprises coming up that only the team itself, not even the development team, but the development council that we've elected know is coming. So yeah, I'd say pay attention for the next week. We'll have a bunch of system announcements. I'll try and pop them into the announcement chat as we coordinate more with the union, as we hear more from Battlezoo, and keep you all up to date. I don't think I've missed any questions. The advanced fury and scimitars will use grant. I don't understand the question. Oh, similars. I'm not sure what advanced fury is. Hold on, let me Google this up. I think that those are in. Now, not all the archetypes have been put up to date, but it should give you a choice set that will be appropriate for when you take it. Yeah, because for Advanced Fury, it goes up to half your level. It should be possible. It's not everything's sorted out. I'll say I will commit that we'll plan to work on it. Whether or not everything will be set, it'll take some time. Hopefully after the next revision, we'll have most of the stuff that we want to do with respect to that done, and then people can start saying, oh, hey, you missed that feat. There's certainly lots of little data entry stuff that we need to catch up on, and we'll always need to catch up on. Let's see, I just built the system today for this stream, and in there we have 14,379 items in our packs, just to give you an idea of how much stuff is in the system. So we'll be breaking 15,000 things that are included in the system relatively soon. Book of the Dead's coming, pretty excited. With Outlaws of Alkenstar coming out, can we get Star Trek Sounding Doors by default? No, absolutely not. I'm vetoing that right now. When will 3.8 come out? Probably sometime tonight. We're not in a huge rush. There's a couple of minor little cleanup things that we're trying to do, but that's it. Now, in fairness to Anathema, it was yesterday that I gave him an aneurysm, not today. Will Foundry team become undead when Book of the Dead releases as a sign of support? Depends on how hard the bus hits Cody. Careful, Anathema. That just means you're going to have to work more hours. Well, with that, I think I will wish everybody a pleasant evening. If you have other questions, feel free to stop by on the Discord. Have a wonderful evening. Thanks for coming out, and we'll catch you guys on the next stream.